What if one human could infiltrate the most powerful alien empire and turn the tables on a tyrannical queen? In a world where loyalty is bought, betrayal is everywhere, and power rules without mercy, Kai Mercer faces impossible odds. But humans have a secret weapon no alien can predict: courage, intelligence, and an unbreakable moral compass. Will one man's choices be enough to reshape an entire galaxy? Watch to the end to witness the rise of humanity and discover what it truly means to be the Queen's chosen. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, because this is just the beginning of an epic saga. The sky above Zerinthia burned with a sickly violet hue, streaked with lightning that danced across the jagged spires of the alien capital. On the surface, the city was a labyrinth of towering obsidian towers, each one carved with alien runes that pulsed faintly with an eerie green light. The air smelled of ozone and burning metal, a constant reminder that life here bent to the will of the alien queen, Thalera. Kai Mercer crouched atop a ridge overlooking the city, his boots crunching against the blackened rock. Every fiber of his body tensed as he scanned the sprawling metropolis below. He was a human, alone on a planet where humans were myths, stories whispered to inspire fear or laughter. Yet here he stood, sent not as a conqueror, but as a spy, a single human in a world ruled by a tyrant with claws of steel and a mind sharper than any weapon Kai had faced. He inhaled, tasting the acrid smoke on his tongue, feeling the raw pulse of the city vibrating to the ground beneath him. Kai's mission was simple in words, impossible in execution: infiltrate the court of Thalera, gather intelligence, and report back to the coalition. Yet as he observed, he realized the simplicity of the plan was a lie. The city was alive. Shadows moved with unnatural precision, whispering voices echoed from the walls, and the very stones seemed aware of trespassers. Kai pressed a hand to his chest, feeling his heartbeat thrum like a war drum. This was no ordinary espionage. This was survival against a species that thought in eons while humans measured time in seconds. As night fell, the palace loomed before him, a monolith of black crystal stretching into the violet sky. The alien queen's citadel pulsed with light from within, casting sharp reflections across the surrounding spires. Kai moved silently, every step calculated. Inside the palace, courtiers of strange, multifaceted beings whispered in languages that twisted his mind, their eyes like polished obsidian, reflecting his human face back at him in fractured images. He felt their judgment, their suspicion. Yet he also felt something else, a faint thread of curiosity that cut through the fear. Kai's fingers brushed against a console in the shadows, his human touch small but precise. He hacked into the security protocols, bypassing layers of alien encryption with a combination of brute logic and intuition. Humans thrived on adaptability. He reminded himself. That was their edge. The queen herself appeared, not with guards or fanfare, but in silence. Thalera's eyes, iridescent and infinite, locked on his. A pulse of energy shot through the floor, making him stumble, yet he held his ground. Instead of attacking, she studied him, her expression unreadable. "Human," she said, her voice a low hum that resonated in his chest. "You are more daring than I anticipated." Kai bowed slightly, maintaining the illusion of submission, while his mind raced. "Your Majesty," he said, keeping his tone measured, "I am here to serve. I am here to learn." A thin smile flickered across Thalera's features, and for a moment, Kai felt the weight of centuries of alien power bearing down on him. But he also felt something else, the faint spark of respect. Over the coming weeks, Kai navigated the labyrinth of court politics. He uncovered plots of corruption, schemes that threatened not only human colonies but the integrity of Thalera's own rule. Every encounter tested his courage. He faced assassins who moved faster than sight, traps that twisted reality itself, and advisors whose minds bent the laws of physics. Yet he persisted, not through strength alone, but through ingenuity, empathy, and the human stubbornness to survive and thrive. He inspired others. Alien courtiers who had long forgotten the meaning of hope began to follow him quietly, taking calculated risks, questioning decrees, and daring to imagine a new way. And Thalera watched, intrigued. She began to aid him in secret, guiding him subtly, letting him unravel corruption that threatened her own throne. It was a dangerous game. Discovery meant instant death. But Kai thrived on danger, on the impossible. He was human, and humans excel where others failed. They adapted, improvised, and held on to morality even when everything screamed to abandon it. Kai's influence grew, until whispers of a human leader spread to the palace like wildfire. The court began to shift, not because of alien laws or might, but because of the unyielding light of humanity shining in the darkness. And somewhere in the throne room, Thalera realized that this human, this spy, was not a mere tool. He could become her equal, her challenger, the harbinger of a new order. Kai felt the weight of that realization too, but he did not falter. In the shadows of the alien queen's palace, humanity began to carve its mark, one act of courage, one moral choice, one inspired heart at a time. Kai stood in the heart of the palace's labyrinthine corridors, the faint hum of alien energy resonating through the walls. Every step he took was deliberate, each movement measured. He knew that the eyes of the court were on him, even when unseen. The corridors twisted unnaturally, angles that made no geometric sense. Yet he adapted, mapping them mentally as humans had always done. With instinct, improvisation, and relentless observation. A whisper brushed past his ear, a shadow moving faster than light. A courtier with intentions far darker than mere gossip. Kai's hand slipped into his jacket, fingers brushing the hilt of a plasma blade concealed beneath the folds. The courtier struck first, a flicker of motion barely perceptible, but Kai was faster, ducking and countering with a sweep that sent the attacker sprawling. He did not strike to kill. He never did. Humans had a strange strength, courage tempered by morality, even in a place ruled by ruthless power. As he caught his breath, he noticed a faint inscription glowing on the wall. Alien runes, but something about them felt familiar. He traced the symbols with a fingertip. Memory sparked. Ancient tales of a lost human colony whispered of these symbols. Keys to manipulating energy flows the aliens believed sacred. Kai smiled faintly. Humans had always been underestimated, and now he held proof. He could bend the palace's energy stream subtly, creating diversions, opening doors, and masking movements. It was a small edge, but in a court of predators, small advantages became legends. Hours later, Kai met Thalera in the private gardens of the palace, a surreal oasis of alien flora that glowed softly in the violet night. The queen's presence was overwhelming, her form towering and regal, her iridescent eyes reflecting the bioluminescent plants around them. "You maneuver well," she said, her voice like low thunder. Kai inclined his head. "I learn from watching. Humans see patterns others ignore." Thalera's smile was thin, but something softened in her gaze. "You are audacious, human. Audacity is rare among your kind." Kai felt the tension in the air shift. Here, in this alien paradise, he was no longer just a spy. He was a force of influence, subtly shifting the balance of power. Over the next weeks, Kai infiltrated the council chambers, witnessing the corruption that throttled the alien queen's rule. Advisors who whispered poison into Thalera's ear, generals who plotted to overthrow her for personal gain, merchants who manipulated entire populations for profit. They were everywhere, weaving chaos. Kai documented everything, but more than that, he began to act. He exposed embezzlement with undeniable proof, prevented an assassination of a low-ranking alien official who had shown kindness to him, and subtly influenced minor policies that improved life for oppressed colonies. And each time, he did not take credit. Humans thrived on subtlety. Influence mattered more than recognition. One night, while navigating the palace archives, he stumbled upon a forbidden chamber. The air was thick, buzzing with raw energy that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. At the center of the room floated a crystalline sphere, pulsing with power that made Kai's vision swim. This was a relic of the ancients, a power source that could reshape cities or destroy them. His pulse raced. This was beyond human understanding. Yet he felt the thrill of possibility. The room was not empty. Thalera appeared behind him, moving silently, a shadow among shadows. "You have found the heart of Zarinthia," she said softly, her voice reverent. Kai's fingers hovered over the sphere. "It could be used to topple corrupt leaders," he said, "or protect those who cannot protect themselves." Thalera studied him. And you would choose to protect? He nodded. Humanity survives because we hold on to hope. Even when everything around us tells us to surrender, we choose life, morality, and courage over domination. The Queen's expression was unreadable. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. Then, almost imperceptibly, she inclined her head. You understand more than I imagined. Perhaps humans are more than myths. From that night onward, Thalera began to secretly aid Kai. She fed him intelligence about the most dangerous advisors, gave him subtle access to restricted areas, and allowed him to plant seeds of reform without interference. Kai's influence grew like wildfire. Aliens who had lived in fear for centuries began to take quiet, calculated actions of their own. They distributed aid to colonies, challenged corrupt decrees, and spoke truths that had been forbidden for generations. Kai was careful. Every step was calculated. The council noticed the changes, but suspicion focused elsewhere. Kai thrived in the chaos of alien suspicion. His human mind worked in ways that alien advisors could not predict. While they plotted in linear patterns, he adapted unpredictably. While they relied on strength and intimidation, he relied on courage, empathy, and moral authority. And slowly, an impossible alliance began to form. Humans, few though they were, spread subtle hope across the galaxy. Alien courtiers, inspired by Kai's integrity, became agents of quiet change. Thalera, the most powerful being in the known universe, began to see the value of human leadership. One evening, as they watched the violet storm over the city, she spoke again. Humans do not dominate as we do. They survive. They inspire. Perhaps that is their true strength. Kai glanced at her, sensing the enormity of her words. Strength without morality is tyranny, he said. Humanity's power lies not in what we conquer, but in what we protect. She did not reply, but her eyes reflected the lightning above, a silent acknowledgment. But not everyone welcomed this quiet revolution. Within the palace, the advisors conspired, sensing that their influence waned. Plots of betrayal multiplied. Assassinations, blackmail, and psychic attacks became tools of desperation. Kai faced each one with a calm mind and swift action. He fought not with brutality, but with ingenuity. A collapsing floor? He redirected energy to create a safe path. Poison air? He deciphered the molecular patterns and created a filter from the palace flora. Ambushed by elite assassins? He led them into corridors where the very walls moved, confusing even the most disciplined mind. Human adaptability and quick thinking repeatedly turned the tide against overwhelming odds. Each victory was not his alone. Every colonist he saved, every alien he inspired, every corrupt advisor unmasked added momentum to a revolution powered by courage, intelligence, and moral clarity. Even Thalera's trust in him grew. In private, she confessed, "You may be the first human I truly understand. You are not just a tool. Kai, you are the seed of change." He did not flinch. Change is inevitable when people remember what hope feels like. The palace trembled on the brink of transformation. The advisors, sensing the loss of control, resorted to desperate measures. Kai knew the final confrontation would be inevitable, a test of human resolve against centuries of alien tradition, power, and cruelty. Yet he did not fear. Humans thrived on the impossible. And as he prepared, he felt something deep within, a resonance with Thalera, not of loyalty, but of mutual respect. They were two forces converging, alien might and human morality. Together, quietly, they began to rewrite the rules of a galaxy that had never valued human strength. Kai stood in the center of the palace, the violet storm casting long shadows around him. He breathed in the electric air, feeling the pulse of energy beneath his feet. The heart of Zarinthia hummed in response to his presence, as if acknowledging his courage. Somewhere, deep within the corridors, whispers of a human hero began to grow into a roar. The revolution was not yet complete. The advisors had not been defeated. The galaxy remained a dangerous place. But Kai Mercer, a single human among gods and monsters, had begun a chain of events that could not be stopped. Humans, fragile yet unyielding, clever yet moral, had begun to prove that even in a universe of impossible threats, they were forces to be reckoned with. And Thalera, the alien queen, watched with growing fascination and respect as her human ally shaped the future, not through domination, but through courage, intelligence, and the unyielding light of humanity. Kai stepped forward into the violet storm, feeling the hum of ancient energy under his boots, sensing that the true challenge had only just begun. And somewhere deep in the palace, the heart of Zorinthia pulsed brighter, recognizing that the age of humans had begun, not with weapons, but with wisdom, morality, and unstoppable courage. Kai moved through the violet-lit corridors of the palace with the quiet confidence of someone who knew every shadow could conceal danger, and every shadow could conceal opportunity. The whispers of the alien court had grown louder. Some called him a human trickster. Others whispered about a hero rising where no human should have a chance. But Kai did not dwell on titles. His mission was clear: protect the oppressed, expose the corrupt, and ensure that morality, courage, and ingenuity triumphed over tyranny. The Council of Advisors had grown restless. They had sensed the subtle shifts, their whispers ignored, their schemes unraveled, their power quietly undermined. They began plotting openly. Kai knew the time for subtlety was coming to an end. One evening, as he surveyed the palace gardens from a high balcony, Thalera appeared beside him. The bioluminescent plants cast their elongated shadow across the ground. "You have made enemies of those who have ruled longer than I have lived," she said. Kai did not flinch. And yet, they underestimate what humans are capable of. Her eyes glimmered with something new: admiration, curiosity, and perhaps the faintest hint of fear. "You move like a predator among prey," she said softly. "And yet, you do not take what is not yours. That is the human way, is it not?" Kai smiled faintly. "We survive not by domination alone, but by inspiring loyalty, by making allies of those who might have been our enemies." She studied him for a long moment before replying. "Then perhaps you are not merely my spy, Kai Mercer. Perhaps you are something more essential." The words hung in the air as lightning split the violet sky. Kai's mind raced. Every action, every choice, every risk he had taken had led to this point. A storm was coming, not of rain or wind, but of power, influence, and war. The council had gathered in secret that night, their voices sharp and venomous. Kai had learned of it through his covert network of allies, humans and sympathetic aliens alike. They intended to strike, to remove both him and Thalera in one swift, brutal sweep. He could feel the tension in the palace like a living thing, vibrating to the walls, the floor, and even the air. Kai knew he could not fight them openly. The palace was their domain, and their knowledge of its intricacies surpassed even his human cunning. He needed strategy, improvisation, and allies, and humans excelled where others failed. Using the energy patterns he had discovered in the heart of Zorinthia, Kai manipulated the palace's security systems. Doors opened when they should remain closed, alarms sounded in empty corridors, and pathways shifted, leading the council members unknowingly into traps of their own making. He moved like a shadow among shadows, anticipating every move, calculating every probability. The council's assassins were relentless, but Kai's adaptability outmatched their precision. When confronted with a psychic attack, he used a reflective surface to redirect it back at the attacker. When surrounded by elite guards, he lured them into corridors where the walls themselves moved unpredictably, creating confusion that even the most disciplined minds could not overcome. Kai's ingenuity became legend within the palace, whisper among courtiers who had never believed a human could survive in such a domain. But the humans' triumphs were not without cost. Allies were lost. Paths became traps. Every victory came with a sting of pain. He felt the weight of mortality pressing against him, a constant reminder that humans were fragile, but also that fragility could fuel courage. One night, as he healed from injuries sustained in a deadly confrontation with the council's elite guard, Thalera entered the chamber. Her presence was commanding, but there was a softness in her gaze reserved only for him. "You carry the burden of many," she said, "and yet you endure." Kai nodded, his body battered but his spirit unbroken. "We endure because we must," he replied, "because survival is not enough. Humans fight for meaning, for hope, for justice." Her lips curved into a rare, genuine smile. "You remind me that power is not only in domination," she said, "but in vision, in guidance, and in moral courage." Kai's resolve strengthened. If humans had proven anything in the galaxy, it was that courage, intellect, and morality could bend even the most rigid power structures. The final confrontation loomed closer. Kai learned that the council intended to assassinate him during a ceremonial gathering, where Thalera would appear before the entire court. The plan was precise, relying on every calculated move the council had ever made. Yet Kai's mind was faster. He devised a counter-strategy that relied not on weapons alone, but on human ingenuity and the subtle manipulation of the palace itself. On the night of the ceremony, the palace shimmered under the violet storm. Courtiers gathered, their alien forms gleaming, their eyes sharp with suspicion and ambition. Kai moved silently, unseen, positioning allies and creating diversions with energy streams and environmental manipulation. The ceremony began and the council struck, unleashing assassins into the crowd. But Kai was ready. The palace shifted as he had planned. Pathways collapsed underfoot. Secret doors opened to redirect attackers, and energy barriers disoriented the council's forces. Aliens who had once feared the human began to fight alongside him, inspired by his courage and moral clarity. Even Thalera intervened subtly, her presence a shield that amplified Kai's strategy. The battle was chaotic, intense, and cinematic. Blades clashed, energy arcs shot through the violet air, and the ground trembled with the fury of combat. Kai moved through it all, a human amidst gods and monsters, his mind sharper than any blade, his courage unyielding. He faced the leader of the council, a being whose intellect rivaled even Thalera's. The duel was not merely physical. It was a battle of wits, strategy, and moral vision. Kai anticipated every move, predicting patterns while creating unpredictable responses. And finally, through intelligence, quick thinking, and the raw force of human morality, he defeated the council leader. The remaining conspirators scattered, unable to regain control. The court was in chaos, yet order began to emerge, not from fear, not from dominance, but from inspiration. Aliens who had long served only out of self-interest now acted with purpose, guided by Kai's example. Thalera, observing from her elevated throne, felt a new respect for humanity swell within her. "You have changed this court," she said, her voice echoing across the chamber. Kai bowed slightly, acknowledging her words, but giving credit to the ideals that had guided him. "Courage, intelligence, morality. Not I alone," he said. "Humans inspire, but it is all of us who choose hope over fear, courage over submission, and justice over tyranny." The court, once corrupt and oppressive, began to transform. Policies changed. Colonies received protection. Advisors who had long acted in secrecy were either reformed or removed. The palace, once a fortress of fear, became a center of guidance, strategy, and hope. Kai Mercer, a single human among countless alien beings, had proven that morality, ingenuity, and courage could triumph over even the most entrenched power. The galaxy watched, though unaware, as the seeds of a human-led revolution spread quietly, changing hearts and minds one act of bravery at a time. Even Thalera, the alien queen, now recognized the truth Kai had always known. Humans were unpredictable, intelligent, and morally resolute, a species capable of shaping the destiny of worlds. Kai stood once more in the palace gardens, violet lightning dancing above. The storm mirrored the tumult he had endured, yet he felt calm. He had faced impossible odds, navigated betrayal, inspired loyalty, and emerged victorious without compromising his humanity. The heart of Zarinthia pulsed nearby, sensing the shift of power and the new balance forged by human courage. Kai took a deep breath, feeling the hum of energy beneath his feet, sensing that the true challenges were only beginning. The galaxy remained dangerous, filled with threats, ancient powers, and impossible odds. But humans, fragile yet unyielding, clever yet moral, had proven they could change the course of history. And Kai Mercer, the human chosen by destiny, was ready for whatever came next. The court had been reshaped. The queen had been influenced. The galaxy had been alerted. And humanity had once again shown that raw courage, intellect, and morality could triumph where brute strength and tyranny failed. Kai's eyes scanned the horizon. The storm raged, the palace trembled, and somewhere, distant stars bore witness to the rise of humans. A new era had begun, not through fear, not through domination, but through hope, strategy, and the unyielding human spirit. And Kai knew, as he stood among the glowing flora and violet lightning, that this was only the beginning of humanity's mark upon the stars. The violet storm above Zorinthia had not abated. Lightning danced across the spires, reflecting off the black crystal of the palace like shards of broken stars. Kai Mercer moved through the outer gardens, alert to every whisper of wind, every flicker of movement. The palace, though reshaped by his interventions, still held danger. The council may have been defeated, but their remnant had scattered into hidden networks, plotting revenge and chaos. Kai's mind raced, mapping out possibilities, contingencies, and potential allies. Every human instinct sharpened. Observation, anticipation, and adaptability. Skills that aliens often underestimated. A sudden shift in the energy currents beneath the gardens alerted him. He crouched low, hands brushing against the glowing flora. A patrol of elite alien enforcers moved with silent precision, scanning for intruders. Kai inhaled, tasting the electric tang of the storm, and held perfectly still. They passed, unaware of his presence, their armor humming softly with the energy that powered their steps. Humans, he reminded himself, thrived in unpredictability. And tonight, unpredictability would be his weapon. Emerging from the shadows, Kai navigated corridors that twisted impossibly, using his understanding of the palace's energy flows to create diversions. A cascade of light erupted behind him, redirecting the enforcers toward a dead-end corridor. He moved swiftly, slipping through doors meant to be locked, guided by intuition and a mind trained to adapt under impossible odds. Reaching the council's hidden archives, he uncovered data detailing their broader conspiracy. Colonies destabilized, resources siphoned, and loyal alien factions bribed or threatened into compliance. Kai's pulse quickened. This was larger than he had imagined. It was not merely about the palace. It was about control over entire systems, entire populations. He activated a secure communicator, sending coded signals to allies across the galaxy. Even in exile, humans and sympathetic aliens would now be able to act coordinated by his strategy. As he reviewed the archives, an alert triggered, a psychic probe, scanning for his presence. Kai froze. The probe was a relic of the ancients, capable of detecting not just physical forms but mental patterns. A misstep could reveal him to the remaining council loyalists. He closed his eyes and centered himself, drawing on human resilience. Humans were small, fragile, and easily overlooked, but our minds were clever, adaptive, and morally grounded. He countered the probe by creating a simulated neural pattern, masking his thoughts with layers of false information. The psychic energy struck him like a storm, but Kai held firm. When it passed, he opened his eyes to find the archive safe. Victory, however small, tasted electric in his veins. As he prepared to leave, he felt a presence behind him. Thalera stepped into the chamber, her form radiant in the pulsing light. "You do not falter, human," she said, even when faced with the incomprehensible. Kai bowed slightly, nodding. "We endure. We adapt. We act with purpose." Her gaze softened. "You remind me of something long forgotten. Not merely survival, but leadership born of courage and morality." Kai's jaw tightened. Humans had always been underestimated, dismissed as fragile or impulsive. Yet here, in the heart of the alien empire, he proved that our strengths were unmatched. Creativity, bravery, and the unyielding drive to do what is right, even against impossible odds. The storm outside intensified, a mirror of the turbulence within the palace walls. Kai and Thalera left the archives together, moving silently through corridors where shadows seemed alive. They reached a high balcony overlooking the city. Below, alien citizens moved cautiously, sensing subtle shifts in the palace's hierarchy. The seeds Kai had sown were taking root. And yet, danger lingered. The council had loyalists scattered across systems, and they would not rest. Kai felt the weight of responsibility pressing against him. Every choice now could ripple across worlds, shaping the fate of millions. Thalera spoke, her voice carrying over the violet-lit city. "The council's reach is vast, but you have shown that humans bend reality with intellect and courage. You could reshape the galaxy if you desired." Kai's eyes reflected the storm above. "I did not seek dominion. I seek justice. Morality and courage are stronger than any throne." She studied him, her expression a mixture of admiration and calculation. "Then, together," she said softly, "we will root out corruption, protect the innocent, and prove that true strength lies not in power, but in wisdom and moral resolve." Kai nodded, feeling the weight of the task ahead. Weeks passed, each day bringing new challenges. Kai faced assassination attempts from hidden council loyalists, political subterfuge within Thalara's court, and threats from external alien factions seeking to exploit the instability. Yet every time he adapted, a collapsing bridge became a trap for enemies. A poisoned water supply was neutralized with a combination of alien flora and human ingenuity. A psychic assassin was outwitted through clever manipulation of energy currents in the palace. Humans, Kai reminded himself, excel where aliens relied on rigid patterns. Courage, morality, and intelligence became his weapons. Allies rallied, inspired by his deeds. Low-ranking courtiers, once fearful and compliant, now acted with daring, challenging orders, protecting colonies and spreading hope. Even Thalara's advisors began to question their methods, influenced indirectly by Kai's subtle guidance. The human presence reshaped not just the palace, but the moral and political landscape of Zorinthia. Yet the greatest challenge remained. Confronting the remaining council loyalists who retreated to the underworld, plotting revenge and galactic destabilization, Kai prepared meticulously. Maps, energy flows, ally positions, and contingency plans were all in place. Humans thrived on preparation and adaptability, and he would use both to turn the impossible into achievable victory. The night before the planned operation, he stood on a cliff overlooking the city, violet lightning illuminating the jagged spires. Thalara joined him silently, her presence a calm force amid the chaos. "You have become more than a human spy," she said. "You are a leader, a force of morality in a galaxy that has long forgotten its meaning." Kai smiled faintly. "Humans survive by choice and courage. That is our strength. That is why we endure." A subtle breeze carried the scent of alien flora and ozone, mingling with the electric tension of the coming battle. Kai's fingers brushed against the hilt of his plasma blade, not for offense alone, but as a symbol of human courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding drive to protect what is right. The operation began at first light. Kai led a small strike team through twisting underworld corridors, navigating traps, psychic wards, and elite alien guards. His human mind predicted patterns, exploited weaknesses, and adapted instantly to every unforeseen challenge. Enemies fell not merely to force, but to strategy, deception, and moral resolve. Alongside him, Thalara acted subtly, amplifying his influence, shielding allies and dismantling the Council's control points. The final confrontation came in the central chamber of the underworld fortress. The last Council loyalists stood arrayed, their psychic energy crackling, weapons gleaming and arrogance palpable. Kai stepped forward, unafraid. "We are not here for dominion," he declared. "We are here to end tyranny, protect the innocent, and prove that morality and courage are stronger than fear and corruption." The battle erupted, a storm of energy, blades, and psychic power. Kai moved with precision, exploiting human unpredictability, turning impossible situations into victories. Allies fought with renewed courage, inspired by his example. Even the loyalists, confronted by undeniable moral clarity and strategic brilliance, faltered. One by one, the Council loyalists fell or surrendered, unable to withstand combined force of human ingenuity, courage, and morality. The underworld fortress fell silent, save for the hum of energy and the storm above. Kai stood victorious, breathing heavily, battered but unbroken. Thalara approached, her iridescent eyes reflecting the violet lightning. "You have done what no one believed possible," she said. "You have changed the fate of a planet, of countless lives. You are not merely a human. You are a force that the galaxy cannot ignore." Kai bowed slightly. "We all have the capacity to inspire. Humans survive and thrive because we choose hope, courage, and morality above fear and power." Thalara's expression softened further. "Then let this be the beginning, not the end. Together, we will reshape the galaxy." Kai nodded, feeling the weight of the future pressing upon him. Humans had proven themselves once again, intelligent, adaptable, courageous, and morally resolute. And the galaxy would never be the same. Kai's eyes scanned the horizon, sensing challenges yet to come, galaxies yet to inspire, and civilizations yet to protect. The storm continued to rage, yet he stood calm, ready for the next impossible trial. Humans were small, fragile, and underestimated. But in every shadow, in every impossible choice, in every act of courage, they left marks that no power could erase. Kai Mercer, human spy turned leader, would continue to carve a path of morality, courage, and intellect through a galaxy of darkness, tyranny, and impossible odds. And somewhere deep in the pulse of the heart of Zorinthia, the energy responded, acknowledging that the age of humans had begun, not with conquest, but with courage, intelligence, and unwavering morality. The dawn over Zorinthia arrived as a bleeding streak of crimson light across jagged violet spires. Kai Mercer stood on the palace balcony, the chill wind carrying the acrid scent of ozone from the storm that had passed. The city below stirred cautiously, citizens moving through the streets with a wary hope that had not existed before. For the first time in centuries, the oppressive grip of the council was broken, but Kai knew the fight was far from over. The galaxy was vast, and corruption had roots deeper than any palace walls. He turned his gaze to Thalera, the alien queen, standing silently beside him. Her presence was a paradox. Commanding and alien, yet now softened by an understanding of humanity he had sparked. "You have shifted more than the palace," she said quietly. "You have ignited ideas. Fear has begun to waver." Kai's jaw tightened. Fear is never gone. It only waits for weakness. "But humans," he paused, letting the wind carry his words. "We thrive when the odds are impossible." Thalera's gaze swept the horizon. "Then perhaps it is time to extend your influence beyond this world." Kai considered the galaxies, the countless systems where human colonies were oppressed, exploited, or forgotten. The thought sent a thrill down his spine. Humans could do more. They could inspire, unify, and protect where no one else dared. But with opportunity came danger. Reports from scouts reached him. Remnants of the council had fled, forming alliances with warlords, mercenaries, and ancient alien powers that hung like shadows in the far reaches of the galaxy. Kai knew that his human adaptability would be tested on a scale far beyond a single palace. Yet he felt alive, invigorated by the challenge. Humans excelled in unpredictability, intelligence, and courage, the very qualities that would allow them to confront impossible odds. That night, he convened a council of his own. Aliens who had once feared him now gathered willingly, their loyalty inspired by his moral clarity and steadfast courage. Human colonists, scattered and forgotten, joined via secure communication, bringing news, strategies, and intelligence. Kai mapped a campaign, not of domination, but of liberation and reform. Each move was precise, calculated, and executed with a unique combination of human intuition and moral guidance. Weeks passed in relentless planning. Kai faced ambushes orchestrated by the fleeing council loyalists, traps designed to ensnare the unprepared, and psychic assaults meant to fracture the mind. Yet he adapted, turned every threat into an advantage, and inspired those around him to act decisively. Even Thalera became an active participant, her alien understanding of strategy complementing Kai's human ingenuity. The galaxy was their chessboard, and together they moved with uncanny precision. The first strike came on the mining colony of Valara 9, a world enslaved by council loyalists to harvest rare energy crystals. Kai led a small strike team, infiltrating the heavily fortified planet with minimal resources. He relied not on brute force, but on human ingenuity, energy redirection, environmental manipulation, and exploiting the predictable arrogance of the alien overseers. The colonists watched in awe as humans and allied aliens moved silently through the corridors, dismantling oppressive machinery, freeing captives, and turning the colony's defenses against its masters. By the time the council's reinforcements arrived, the human-led force had already secured control. The colony erupted in celebration, not of conquest, but of liberation. Kai's mind raced. Every success sent ripples across the network of colonies, inspiring resistance, challenging fear, and proving that humans could achieve what alien tyrants deemed impossible. Yet victory carried a price. In the chaos, a trap had been laid, a psychic strike aimed at Kai's mind, designed to overwhelm him and leave him incapacitated. He felt the psychic energy like a hammer striking his consciousness, a storm threatening to shatter his mind. And yet, humans thrived on adaptability. Kai focused, using mental patterns learned from centuries of human problem-solving, creating false trails and decoys within his own mind. The psychic storm collided with itself, fracturing under his strategy, and he emerged unscathed, pulse racing, mind sharp, ready for the next challenge. Thalera observed from orbit, her energy manipulation subtly supporting him, guiding the battle's outcome without ever directly interfering. Kai had become more than a human spy. He was a symbol, a beacon of morality, courage, and intelligence that reshaped entire systems. The campaign expanded rapidly. Human-led forces liberated planets, restructured corrupt governments, and inspired alien populations to resist oppression peacefully but decisively. And everywhere, whispers spread. Humans were unpredictable, cunning, and morally unyielding, a force that could not be crushed by brute power alone. Yet the shadow of the Council remained. Kai received intelligence of a secret weapon being constructed in the heart of the nebulous shadows, a device capable of annihilating entire fleets, designed by the remnants of the Council and ancient alien engineers. He knew confrontation was inevitable. The path ahead would test every human trait, adaptability, courage, intelligence, and the moral compass that had guided him thus far. As he prepared, he reflected on how far humans had come. Fragile, underestimated, dismissed, they had survived centuries in the shadows of alien empires, always finding ways to turn weakness into strength. Kai understood now that this was their ultimate advantage, unpredictability coupled with moral clarity. The day of the assault arrived. Kai led a fleet comprised of humans, allied aliens, and freed colonies into the heart of the nebulous shadows. The environment was hostile. Swirling ion storms, gravitational anomalies, and spatial distortions threatened to tear ships apart. Yet humans thrived on challenge. Kai directed the fleet with precision, anticipating anomalies, exploiting enemy miscalculations, and using creative strategies that no alien mind could predict. The enemy weapon activated, releasing waves of energy designed to disintegrate fleets. Kai acted instantly. He devised a redirection strategy, using the nebula's energy currents to funnel the destructive waves back at the weapon's core. The Council loyalists had relied on their technology, their overwhelming power. But humans relied on ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. The weapon imploded, sending a shock wave through the nebula that shattered the enemy fleet. Victory was complete, though not without cost. Allied ships had suffered damage. Colonists had been tested. But Kai's human-led strategy had prevailed against impossible odds. As he surveyed the battlefield, the stars reflecting in his eyes, he realized that humanity's true strength had been proven, not in domination, not in brute force, but in morality, intelligence, courage, and the ability to inspire loyalty and hope where none had existed. Thalera appeared beside him once more, her iridescent eyes reflecting admiration, respect, and something deeper. "You have proven the impossible," she said, "not as a conqueror, but as a human who understands courage, morality, and strategy. You have reshaped not only the palace, but the galaxy." Kai nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing upon him. "We have only begun," he said. "Humans thrive in the impossible, and we will continue to protect, inspire, and endure wherever tyranny lurks." Thalera's expression softened. "Then, together, we will shape the galaxy anew. And perhaps the age of humanity is only beginning." Kai smiled faintly, feeling the pulse of energy from the heart of Zorinthia beneath him, resonating in sync with his own determination. The storm had passed, the nebula had calmed, and humanity had proven that even against overwhelming alien power, morality, intelligence, courage, and adaptability could triumph. Kai Mercer, human among gods and monsters, had not merely survived. He had changed the course of history. And as the stars stretched infinitely before him, he knew the galaxy would never forget the rise of humans. Unpredictable, courageous, and morally unyielding. Yet even as victory settled, Kai understood that the universe was far from tamed. New threats would arise. Ancient powers would awaken. Corruption would attempt to reclaim what had been liberated. But humans thrived where others failed. Kai felt the resolve within him strengthen. The galaxy awaited his next move, and he was ready. Humans had proven, once and for all, that courage, intelligence, morality, and adaptability were forces more powerful than any weapon, empire, or tyranny. And Kai Mercer would continue to lead, inspire, and fight for humanity, for justice, and for the endless stars beyond. The stars above Zorinthia burned with clarity Kai had never seen before. The violet storms that had dominated the sky for centuries had finally abated, leaving the heavens clear, a canvas of endless possibility. Kai Mercer stood atop the central spire of the alien queen's palace, the heart of Zorinthia pulsing faintly beneath his feet, reflecting in his eyes like a second constellation. It had been months since the council loyalists had been scattered, their fleets destroyed, and their insidious networks dismantled. Yet the galaxy remained a place of peril. Rogue factions lurked in distant systems, ancient powers stirred in the shadowed corners of space, and untold threats waited silently, patient for an opportunity. But for the first time in centuries, there was hope, and hope had a human face. Thalera stepped beside him, her towering form casting an iridescent shadow over the palace courtyard. "You have done more than I ever imagined, Kai," she said, her voice resonating with quiet awe. "You have reshaped not only this world, but the hearts of countless beings across the galaxy. The Council is no longer a threat, and yet—" Kai turned to her, sensing the weight behind her words. "The galaxy is far from safe," he said, his voice steady. "But humans survive because we endure. We thrive because we act where others hesitate. And we lead because we choose morality over fear." Thalera's eyes glimmered with a mixture of admiration and reflection. "You are not like any human I have known," she said. "Perhaps that is why you have succeeded. You lead not through domination, but through inspiration. You embody what humanity truly is: unpredictable, courageous, intelligent, and morally resolute." Kai nodded, feeling the enormity of her recognition. It was not merely about survival anymore. It was about legacy. The palace courtyard below had transformed over months. Once a place of fear, oppression, and intrigue, it now thrummed with activity and quiet joy. Aliens of all ranks mingled openly, discussing policy, trade, and governance with newfound trust. Colonists and freed citizens walked freely, their eyes reflecting gratitude, hope, and awe at what one human had achieved. Kai had not wielded armies to dominate or weapons to conquer. He had wielded courage, intelligence, and moral authority that had proven more powerful than any psychic blast, any fleet of warships, or any council's cunning. From the balcony, he could see ships arriving from distant systems. Humans, aliens inspired by his leadership, and representatives of liberated colonies. They came not to submit, not to kneel, but to collaborate. A human colony ship touched down, the hull gleaming in the morning light. Kai's pulse quickened. These people, scattered and forgotten across the galaxy, had begun to recognize that humanity was not weak, not insignificant, and not bound to the shadows. They had a voice, they had a leader, and together they could reshape the galaxy. A sudden vibration passed through the heart of Zorinthia. Kai felt it in his chest, a resonance unlike anything he had experienced before. The energy was not violent. It was alive, aware, responsive. It pulsed with acknowledgement, as if recognizing that the galaxy had shifted. Thalera placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have earned its trust," she said, "not with violence, but with moral clarity, with courage, with the choices you made when the odds were impossible." Kai swallowed, absorbing the magnitude of her words. Humanity had not merely survived on Zorinthia. It had thrived, reshaping politics, inspiring loyalty, and awakening hope in a galaxy long paralyzed by fear. And yet, the greatest challenge lay ahead, cementing this new order across countless worlds and ensuring that morality, intelligence, and courage became the guiding principles rather than temporary anomalies. Kai descended into the palace's main chamber, where a gathering of leaders, humans, aliens, and hybrid delegations awaited his guidance. He could feel the energy of the crowd, the hum of anticipation, and the undercurrent of unspoken questions. The chamber had once been a place of fear, where conspiracies were hatched and lives were extinguished at a whim. Now it vibrated with possibility, a reflection of humanity's influence and the power of moral leadership. Kai stepped forward, his presence commanding not through fear, but through the quiet confidence of someone who had faced impossible odds and endured. "Friends," he began, his voice carrying across the chamber, "we stand at the edge of a new era. For centuries we have been ruled by fear, by tyranny, and by those who believe that strength alone defines power. But strength without morality is hollow. Intelligence without purpose is empty. Courage without vision is wasted. Humans have survived because we choose morality when it is difficult, courage when it is dangerous, and intelligence when the odds are impossible. Today, we show the galaxy that leadership is not domination. It is guidance, protection, and inspiration. Together, humans and allies of all kinds will reshape the systems that have long oppressed, that have long silenced hope, and that have long underestimated the power of morality, courage, and intelligence." A murmur of approval spread across the chamber. Aliens who had once feared him now nodded with respect. Humans who had once hidden in fear now lifted their heads, ready to act, ready to lead. Kai's eyes swept the room, landing on Thalera. "You have shown me that humans are not myths," she said softly, "but forces that can shape destiny, forces that can bend the impossible, and forces that can inspire loyalty through courage and morality." Kai smiled faintly, a human smile in a galaxy of aliens. "Then let us ensure that this is only the beginning," he said, "not for domination, but for the protection of the innocent, for the triumph of morality, and for the enduring light of humanity across the stars." The chamber erupted, not in violence, but in agreement, in energy, in the collective recognition that something profound had changed. Kai felt the pulse of the heart of Zorinthia once more. It resonated with approval, with harmony, and with the acknowledgement of human influence, not through weapons, not through fear, but through courage, intelligence, and moral clarity. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Kai oversaw the reconstruction of colonies, the establishment of fair governance, and the training of humans and aliens alike in principles of leadership guided by morality and intellect. He mediated disputes, uncovered hidden corruption, and inspired loyalty not through intimidation, but through example. Every success spread across the galaxy like wildfire, proving that humans were not fragile, that humans were not insignificant, and that humans could thrive where others failed. Thalera observed quietly, guiding when necessary, but allowing Kai's leadership to shine. She realized that humans were not constrained by the rigid hierarchies that govern alien societies. Their adaptability, their ingenuity, and their moral compass allowed them to act decisively in ways that alien minds could never predict. And she understood that in Kai, humanity had found a true champion, one whose courage, intelligence, and integrity would ripple across the stars for generations. The final test came when a coalition of warlords, sensing the rise of human influence, attempted to seize control of a strategically vital system. Kai led a fleet of human and allied ships, navigating asteroid fields, gravitational anomalies, and ambushes designed to annihilate them. Every decision relied on human unpredictability and ingenuity. Every maneuver reflected adaptability, intelligence, and moral calculation. The battle was intense, cosmic in scale, and cinematic in its chaos. Yet Kai's leadership turned the tide. The warlords' forces faltered against a strategy that was impossible to anticipate, countering every attack not with brute force, but with precision, inspiration, and the unwavering moral resolve of a human leader. When the dust settled, the galaxy had witnessed a phenomenon previously thought impossible. Humans, led by Kai Mercer, had triumphed over overwhelming odds, not by domination, but by intellect, courage, and morality. News spread across the stars. Colonies that had hidden in fear emerged, inspired to reclaim their freedom. Alien systems, once resigned to tyranny, began reforming with justice as their guiding principle. Even distant observers, ancient alien civilizations, took note of humanity's influence, recognizing that unpredictability and moral clarity could reshape entire galaxies. Kai returned to Zorinthia, standing once more atop the central spire. The heart of Zorinthia pulsed brighter than ever, a beacon reflecting the union of human courage and moral authority with alien wisdom. Thalera joined him, and for the first time there was no tension between them, no suspicion, only respect, admiration, and the recognition of shared purpose. "You have done the impossible," she said, "not as a conqueror, not as a tyrant, but as a human who embodies the best of your species. Courage, intelligence, morality. They are your weapons, and you wield them better than any alien army. Kai nodded, gazing at the horizon where countless stars shimmered, each one a world touched, influenced, or inspired by the human example. This is not the end, he said softly, but the beginning. Humanity has proven itself, and now we carry that truth to every corner of the galaxy. We survive, we endure, we inspire, and we will continue to do so wherever hope is needed, wherever courage is tested, wherever morality is at stake. Thalera placed her hand on his shoulder. And we will do it together, she said. Humans and aliens, guided by the principle that true strength lies not in power, but in wisdom, courage, and moral clarity. Kai smiled, a quiet, human smile. The storm of the past had ended. The galaxy stood on the edge of a new era, one where fear no longer ruled, where morality guided actions, and where human courage and intelligence had carved a permanent mark upon the stars. And as Kai Mercer gazed into the infinite expanse, he understood something profound. Humans, fragile yet resilient, small yet ingenious, moral yet daring, were forces that no empire, no council, and no tyrant could ever suppress. They were unpredictable. They were courageous. They were intelligent. And above all, they were human. The stars twinkled in quiet acknowledgement. The heart of Zarinthia pulsed in harmony, and the galaxy held its breath, witnessing the rise of a new era. The age of humanity had truly begun, and Kai Mercer, the human chosen by destiny, would ensure that it endured.